And happy Halloween to all you boys and girls out there. So, today I'm going to be talking about some facts about the thing. And so, let's go ahead and talk about some of the trivia that I found out about the thing. So, it's actually a remake of a 1951 black and white film. The thing is a remake of The Thing from Another World, a black and white horror film from 1951, widely regarded one of the best films from the 1950s sci-fi creatures feature boom. It was directed by Christian Nabai and co-written and produced by Howard Hawks, the intentional filmmaker behind such diverse, enduring hits such as Scarface, Bringing Up Baby, The Big Sleep, and Rio Bravo. So those are a couple of things about that. And then, like John Carpenter's 1982 version, The Thing from Another World was based on Who Goes There, a novella by writer John W. Campbell Jr., which was first published in August 1938, issue of best-selling pulp magazine Astounding Science Fiction. Years later, an extended novel-length vision of Campbell's story was discovered. This finally saw print in 2019, so you guys can actually check that out. Jeff Bridges and Nick Nolte both turned down the chance to play MacReady. After John Carpenter signed on to direct the thing, one of the first orders of business was finding a leading man. This proved surprisingly difficult. The role of MacReady was turned down by Nick Nolte and Jeff Bridges, who later worked with director John Carpenter on Starman. Wishlist, Harrison Ford and Clint Eastwood were amongst those also considered for the part. The role, of course, eventually went to Kurt Russell, who would wound up being the last actor in the thing to be cast. This was despite the fact that the actor was good friends with Carpenter and had already spent weeks helping the director develop the film. Carpenter had intentionally been reluctant to cast Russell as they had already worked together twice on a TV movie, Elvis and Escape from New York, and the director was wary of them being typecast as a package deal, which I can totally understand that because I even mentioned that the fact in the thing review that they've worked on Escape from New York and things like that. So I can understand how they could actually be typecast and as a package kind of deal, and how John Carpenter basically wanted to do something a little bit different. But I think having Kurt Russell in the thing actually works. Special effects legend Stan Winston refused credit for his work. One of the key elements of the thing to have been constantly collaborated over the years is the astonishing practical effects work used to create the shapeshifting alien threat. The majority of these very ahead of their time. Special effects were created by a 22-year-old Rob Bottin, whose heavy workload on the project ultimately led him to suffering from severe exhaustion. In order to take pressure off the worked, Bottin, the seasoned and respected special effects maestro Stan Winston, stepped in to help out, creating the film's terrifying dog thing. However, Winston, whose other credits include The Terminator, Aliens, and Predator, was mean for Bottin to take all the plaudits, so refused to receive any credit whatsoever for his work. Kurt Russell was nearly injured by a stunt explosion. The thing is relatively low on gun violence and hand-to-hand fight scenes, but it does feature heavy use of flamethrowers and dynamite. While such sequences were carefully coordinated, there were still moments when the cast were at real risk of being hurt. And leading man, Kurt Russell himself, had one particularly hairy moment, which could easily have been a lot worse. The scene in which MacReady destroys the alien version of Palmer with the stick of dynamite required a controlled special effects explosion to be set off close to Kurt Russell. Unfortunately, the actor had not been informed how big the explosion would be, being that he was standing far too close to it, and gave an entirely genuine reaction to flames that were nearly touched his face. A big chunk of the film's budget went towards keeping the cast and crew warm, which I can actually understand that. The thing is set at American scientist research base in Antarctica, although it probably won't surprise you to learn that the film wasn't actually shot there. Instead, the American cast and crew flew out to an icy region considerably closer to home, the town of Stewart, in the Canadian province of British Columbia. Still, even though they weren't making the movie in a literally Antarctic region, the weather conditions for the cast and crew of the thing were steadily relatively harsh. During the production, temperatures ranged from 0 degrees to minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Because of this, around $75,000 of the film budget wound up being spent on keeping the film's cast and crew warm. John Carpenter says McReady and Childs are both human at the end of the film. You see, that was something that Beth and I were talking about. Like, it gave you that little bit of a mystery kind of element to the film at the end of it, where you don't know if they're both the thing or if they're both human, and therefore you don't know how the movie's going to end. But it gives you a chance to actually just use your imagination and creativity to figure out what ending best works for you, which is something that I do appreciate. But now, John Carpenter says McReady and Childs are both human at the end of the film. Thing ends on a dark and ambitious note, with the wounded McReady, Kurt Russell, and Childs keep David sitting facing one another, neither knowing whether or not the other is really the man they claim to be or another vessel created by the thing. Fan theories have presented for years. In fact, both men have been assimilated. The most enduring theory notes that neither character seems to have any visible breath emanating from their mouths as they sit in freezing conditions, which may demonstrate that neither of them are human. However, this theory has been debunked by John Carpenter, who insists that both men are still themselves in the final scene, although the director admits he did want to promote the sense of uncertainty. The film got scratching reviews on release, as hard as it may believe now. The initial reviews for the thing were almost universally negative. The Los Angeles Times described the film as perfect, despairing, and non-essential. The New York Times called it instant junk, and other outlets were no kinder. Even Sci-Fi Fantasy Horror magazine had their nice out, asking on their cover, "Is this the most hated movie of all time?" Director John Carpenter reflected in 2008 the movie was hated, even by science fiction fans. They thought that I had betrayed some kind of trust. Even the original movie's director, Christian Naby, was dissing me still. While the thing wasn't a blockbuster, it wasn't a total flop either. Off the back of the $15 million budget, it made just a shy of $20 million, which isn't too huge of a loss at the box office. No, especially if you're thinking about the 1980s and stuff like that, with it being a $50 million budget, and and also X amount of money was actually used to keep the cast and crew members warm, and then it only made $20 million. You made your money back a little bit, but not as much as you would if it was actually a successful film. But it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't, which isn't a huge loss at the box office. And its negative reception may have been the fault of E.T. In very simple terms, the thing is a story of humankind encountering intelligent life form in another world. The movie hit screens were weeks after another film had explored the ideas in a very different manner. E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Steven Spielberg's family-friendly fantasy tugged at the heartstrings of audiences, in young and old, and left everyone with a warm, fuzzy feeling. Unlike The Thing, which definitely doesn't give you a warm and fuzzy feeling, but it does give you a little bit of coldness when it comes down to the very end of it, because Kurt Russell and the other character are both outside freezing. So there's that. So with that being said, guys, did you like The Thing? Tell me in the comments below. Also, too, go on ahead, smash that subscribe button. Don't forget to smash that like button. Tell me what you think of these facts. If you even know more facts, comment below. I would like to actually know. And always, until next time, bye-bye.